Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Jumps on the Garden. Okay, so it's the 20th of May now. As you can see, this is the left-hand side of the tunnel. As you can see, the kale plants have got quite big. So to give you an idea, that's the size of my hand. So these leaves are getting quite big. So they'll sort of grow, and I have watered them twice. So I don't really need to worry about slugs now, because the slugs aren't going to attack them now that they're this big. But all I need to do is in any dry period, just make sure that they get watered, so that they don't all sort of run to seed, which is unlikely. Now this is the calabrese, or the broccoli. As you can see, that's also grown really well. Now you can see that they've grown, you can see how they're all supporting each other and keeping themselves upright. So what I need to do is make sure that these stay watered and don't dry out. Otherwise what you'll get is the florets forming. You know, they'll run to seed in the middle. So you want the plants to get reasonably big before the florets form, so when they do form, you know, they're a really healthy size. So that's the first batch of broccoli. So what I'm going to do now is put a second batch of broccoli in, which is going to go in this area here, along here, so we can get a second batch. And so when these harvest, these will all sort of come out, and obviously we'll harvest the florets, and then all the leaves and that will go to the chickens. There's no reason why you can't eat the leaves of broccoli. You know, you can eat it like spinach or kale, but I typically give the leaves and that to the chickens. And then I'll backfill in here with the second batch of broccoli, so that I get another harvest in about 6 weeks' time. Okay, so now that the broccoli that's already in, or the calabrese which is already in the ground, has got to a reasonable size, obviously that's going to be harvested in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. It's now time to put in the second batch, which will go in the ground just behind that, and then I'll just, you know, sort of keep putting. You know, as soon as I've harvested the first lot, they'll come out, and then there'll be some more to go in there. But it's time to sow some more. And basically, exactly like I did at the beginning of the year, this is a different variety. This is Fiesta F1 hybrid. Now, the one thing that you need to note about hybrid seeds, as you can see on the hybrid there, when they come to crop, they will pretty much all crop in the same week or so. So if you're going to grow a whole load of these, I would suggest that you don't go for a hybrid. If you don't go for a hybrid, then you're likely to get some come ready, then you can pick them, and then some more will come ready. Then you'll get, over the space of 2 weeks or so, you will get 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get sort of different ones coming into fruition, then you can crop them. If you grow a hybrid variety, they will literally all come ready together in 1 week or so. So if you are going to grow a load of these, but you know you don't want to harvest them all in one go, then don't pick a hybrid, pick another one. So just a quick tip for you. So what I'm going to do, normal seed tray, and all I'm going to do is put some compost in there. This is the clover compost, which I always use. And all I'm going to do is put in about that much, so it's about ½ an inch or so from the top. I've got slightly too much in there. Now somewhere I've got a piece of wood, so all I'm going to do very quickly is sort of level that off as best you can. Make sure it's all in the corners, and then just with a piece of wood like that, or another tray is another way of doing it. It's easier with a piece of wood because it's nice and flat. Just flatten all of it down. Now, all brassicas like the ground to be firm, so don't worry about getting it too firm. Now in here I've got, apparently I've got 50 seeds. So I'll just show you what they look like. They're like small brown or black spheres. As you can see, that's what the seed looks like. So what you want to do is sow it sparingly across the surface. So sort of don't be too overly fussy, but what you want to try and do is get the seeds at least 1 inch or so apart, so that when you come to thin them out, you know, you've not got 2 or 3 plants together. The only problem with these seeds are they're exactly the same colour as compost, so as soon as they're down, they're really difficult to spot where they are. But try and spread them out as best you can across the compost, like that. Make sure I've got every last one out. Right, now all I need to do is put a very, very fine bit of compost over the top. Now this really is just to keep the seeds wet whilst they're germinating. Now this time of year we don't need to sort of cover them with glass, it's warm enough for them to germinate in the greenhouse without any of that. So as soon as you've got a nice covering of compost over the top there, like that, what you need to do is firm it down again, like that. Now this is the way I do it. What you could have done is water the compost before you put the seed on it, and then just sprinkle this on at the top, but I always tend to water it at the end. Right, I suggest you water it with tap water to start with until they germinate, so there's no sort of bugs, because if you use water out for watering, but you can have sort of bacteria in there. But to be honest with you, brassicas are quite robust against anything like that, so it should be okay. But basically, give them a good watering, keep them moist but not wet, obviously. Label them up so you know what they are, and in the next couple of weeks these will start to come up. Then what I need to do is prick them out into the normal sized pots like those, and then grow them on until they get to about 6 inches high. So as soon as you get to about 2 inches high in here, you need to prick them out, separate them out into single plants, pot them up into them pots until they get to about, and let them grow in there till they get to about sort of 6-7 inches high, and then you're ready to put them in the ground, and I'll show you that when I get to do it. But that's what you should be doing with broccoli or calabrese now, that the first sort of crops already started, and will be sort of coming to fruition in the next sort of 3 weeks or so. You need to be getting the second batch in, so you've then got a successional crop going through the year. Okay, so onto the tomatoes. As you can see, these are more than ready to go in. That's about just about right for being potted, being planted out of the greenhouse now. So they're about almost a foot tall, really, but really they do need to go into the greenhouse now. So what I'm doing is just preparing the greenhouse now. You saw me preparing the border on this side. So all of this is going to come out, and the tomatoes are going to go in this side as well. But I've just finished doing this side here now. I've had loads of bindweed in this side of the greenhouse. Unfortunately, it's worked its way underneath the slabs, and it's worked its way into the greenhouse. So anyway, I've dug all of that out, and basically what I've done is I've taken all the soil out of this border. I've put in there about probably about 120, 140 litres of chicken manure, and then dug all that in to the soil underneath. And then what I've done is I've just topped it off with the soil that I took out and sort of broken all that up. So this is now ready to put the tomatoes in. Now what I'm going to be doing, as I always do, is put 3 rows of tomatoes in, and then I'll basically put the back row in, and then sort of between the sticks, I'll basically put a stick in the middle, and then there'll be a row at the front as well, and then obviously sort of offset so that they're not too close to each other. Now I do plant tomatoes reasonably close together, so in this bit here I'll probably get about 12 plants. Now I know they're closer together than most people do it, but I find that works for me. So I'm just going to put the sticks in, and then basically what I do is I'll push the sticks into the ground, and then tie them in to these poles on the roof here. As you can see, they're always in, and then basically I tie them in at the top with some cable ties, and then the tomatoes will then be planted just this side of each of the poles going along, and then they can then trail up the poles. Obviously, what you can do is plant them, wait till they get a bit bigger, then put the sticks in. But I find by putting the sticks in first, you sort of minimise the risk of sort of damaging the plants at a later stage. So I always find if you get the bed ready, dig in loads of sort of grass, chicken manure, anything you can find really. The richer the ground, the better the tomatoes are going to grow. The same with every plant really. If you get the ground conditions right, then really after that everything will sort of fall into place. So get the ground right. Don't Don't skimp on what you're doing with the bottom. Make sure it's all dug over, there's no weeds or anything like that, and then you've got as much fertile matter in there as you possibly can. And with tomatoes, because they're really hungry plant, it's even more important really. And then obviously put in as much carbon matter as you can as well. So obviously there's loads of straw, you can just see bits of it on the top, but underneath, if I sort of dig down, you'll be able to see that there's a lot more sort of straw underneath here. I perhaps can't dig down that far actually, but there's loads of straw underneath, so that's going to hold moisture. So when I water it, that's going to take up the moisture, and then obviously the tomatoes will have that there to go at. So I'm just going to put the sticks in, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the sticks in, and then I'll put the tomatoes in just in front of the sticks. Okay, so there are the sticks. As you can see, I've got a row of 4 at the back, and then sort of in between those I've got a row of 3 in the middle, and then again another row of 4 at the front. So I'm going to plant the plants just in front of the sticks here, on each of the sticks, starting at the back, and then working my way forward. As you can see, they're tied into the roof. These sort of other bamboo canes in the roof, so they're all tied in. So these sticks are nice and firm. They're not going to move anywhere. So they're in the ground all the way down to the basically floor. So they're in the soil by about a foot or so, and then they're also tied to the top. So you know the structure isn't going to go anywhere. That's going to more than be strong enough to hold the tomato plant up with all of the fruit on there. Now, any tomato plant, particularly like the varieties that I grow, like Moneymaker, they can have up to, I'd say, 2 kilos of tomatoes on them. So you need to have sufficient support in there to make sure that the plants don't fall over, because obviously if the plants fall over, they're going to snap off and you're going to lose the plant and probably the fruit with it. So always make sure that the structure that your tomatoes are growing up is nice and strong. Another additional note: if you did have blight or anything like that last year, now's the time to make sure that you know everything's perfectly clean. I had it not last year, but the year before I had it, so I jet washed all the inside of the greenhouse, made sure it was absolutely perfectly clean, and then all of the sticks I either replaced or I washed them down with Jay's fluid. So just make sure that you know everything that you put into the greenhouse is free from anything like blight, spores, anything like that. So these are all, I know for a fact these are all nice and clean. You know, there's no problems with any of these. So so as soon as you've done that, you're ready to put your tomatoes in. Okay, so as you can see, this tomato's ready to go. And now the first thing I'm going to do is just take out these side shoots here, because what I don't want is for it to be branching out. So just before I put it in, it's easy to do it now before I put it in. Take out all the side shoots, all of these. So every time you get a leaf coming out, just down there, that's where you're going to get them forming. So that's all nice and free of any sort of side branches. So what I'm ready to do now, as you can see there, they're the roots. So the good set of roots on there. So I'm now ready to put it in the ground, and what I'm going to do is bury it slightly deeper than it is or was in the pot. So the first thing I'm going to do, so this one's going to be planted at the back here, so just at this spot here. So I'm just going to dig the hole in front of the stick. You can just see the straw coming out there. Okay. And then the tomato plant's going to go right up against the stick, and I'm going to plant it about 2 or 3 inches lower than it was in the pot. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a bit lower, about 2 inches lower than it was in the pot. Then just backfill. If you bury the leaves, don't worry about that, because at the bottom of the tomato stem down here, further roots are going to form. The more roots you've got, the better the fruit's going to be, because there's going to be more feed in the plant. So don't worry about burying leaves or anything like that. So just to show you again, I'll just do one in this one here, which is a bit further forward. So I'm just going to dig a hole out, which I know is deeper than the tomatoes in the pot. Then just take it out quickly, take it out of the pot. So all of these side shoots here, so all of these need to come out, and all you need to do is just pinch them off to the side like that. So all of those need to go. And as the plant grows, you're going to have to take them out as well as the plant grows further. So I've got no side shoots now on the plant, and then that goes in the ground about 2 inches, 3 inches lower than it was in the pot. You can go deeper than that if you wish. And then backfill like that. Make sure it's nicely firm down right up against the stick. And then as soon as I've got all of these in, these are going to have a really good soak of water, because the ground that they're going into is reasonably dry, and so I want to you know, absolutely saturate this. So I'm going to put probably two cans of water, watering cans of water on this, so it's nice and moist to start off. And then they'll probably need watering every night, probably about 2/3 of a watering can to start with, till the plants get a bit bigger. Then as soon as the fruit forms on there, they're going to need at least 1 watering can full every night. Okay, so there you can see all 11 plants in. So they're all planted just in front of the pole. So what I'll be doing is, as they sort of grow up the pole, what I will be doing is tying them to the pole with some of this, which I find quite useful, which is it's got like felt on one side and Velcro on the other. And what you can do is you can just put that round the plant, sort of like that, and then which will hold it onto the cane, and that keeps it nice and secure. So this is really useful, obviously, and really quick to release as well. You know, quick and easy to use. What you can do is obviously use string. What I don't recommend you do is use nylon string, because nylon string can, with the weight of the fruit, it can cut through the stem of the plant. So I don't recommend you do that. But this is quite good stuff, or standard sort of cloth string, if you know, sort of organic type string. But don't use this sort of nylon-y type string, because that can sort of cut through the stems of the plant. So that's the tomatoes in that side. Obviously this side of the greenhouse here, I'm going to be taking all these beans out and planting them out in the next few days, and then obviously exactly the same thing on this side will occur. So I'll have canes in exactly the same way all the way along here on this side. All of these are moneymaker tomatoes, and I'll have moneymaker up to probably about here, and then these last few at this end here will be the sunrise, golden sunrise. These are they're basically the same as moneymaker, but they're you know, like a yellow tomato. So all the dahlias and fuchsias and all these beans will come out in the next couple of days, and I'll plant all the way along here in exactly the same way. So I'll show you that when it's all finished. Okay, a couple of weeks ago I did an article on making comfrey tea. So basically what it is I chopped down a plant which is a little bit smaller than this. This is comfrey, and all you do basically is chop it all down and put it into a pot. If you go back a couple of episodes you'll see that, but basically I just wanted to quickly give you a quick update. So this is the pot that it's in, and as you can see it doesn't look the best thing in the world, but I don't know if you can see here, but this is the comfrey tea. So what I can do now is I can actually drain that off and make sort of drain off and get a couple of 3 bottles of comfrey tea out of there, which is fantastic for tomato feed, which is obviously a really good free tomato feed. So all I'm going to do now is basically I'll drain off what's in there, and all I'm going to do is chop up some more comfrey and just top that up so it's up to the top here. Then obviously that can start to break down, which will give me continual supply of tomato feed for in the season. So just sort of let you see what it looks like now. So that's just 2 weeks on, and that's already started to break down. It breaks down really quickly. So all I'm going to do now is just chop some more up, put that on the top, put the slab on the top, and then cover that over. Don't add any water because that'll make it smell. And then just draw it out, put it into pot bottles, then just add that to water, about 10 to 1, and then you can feed your tomato plants on that. If you've got 1 fruit truss, feed it once a week. If you've got 2 fruit trusses on your plant, feed it twice a week, 3 times a week, and so on. And mix it up about 10 to 1, and then away you go. So that's what the comfrey tea looks like at the moment. Okay, so the next crop I'm going to be putting in is beetroot. Now, to be honest with you, I normally put these straight into the ground and sort of thin them out. That's what I've done it. But this year I'm a bit late because I had a holiday over Easter. So what I'm going to do is, just to give them a bit of a boost, I'm going to start them off in the greenhouse in these little plantlets, which will bring them on much quicker in the warm, and then I'll plant the little plugs out into the garden in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm just going to start them off in here. I don't normally do this, but you can do this with sort of beetroot or swede or anything like that. You can start them off in the greenhouse to get either an early crop or to bring it on a bit quicker. But all you need to do is, obviously with one of these sort of cell trays, what I'm going to do is put some compost in there. As I say, this time of year you can plant them straight into the ground. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's just I'm trying to get them to grow a bit quicker than they would do if they're out in the... Now I guess putting them out into the allotment, into the ground and putting some kind of cloche over them would bring them on, probably in about the same way. But just for my ease more than anything, I'm just going to do that. So all I've done is basically push the soil in, so I've just sort of filled the little cells. Now what I want to do is put a hole in the middle of each one, because you don't want the seed to be too deep in here. You only want it down about 5mm. Now if I show you the seed, it looks very much like little pieces of cork. So there you go, that's what the seed will look like. So all I'm going to do is put 2 of these in the middle. So by sticking my finger in, what it does is it makes the seed go into the middle of the cell rather than being at the edge. So I'm going to put 2 seeds in each one. And what I'll do is cut out the just prick out the one, the weakest one of the 2, and then leaving the strongest 2 in there. Sorry, the strongest 1 in there, and that's what I'll plant out into the allotment. So I'm just putting 2 seeds in each one. Now these will grow away quite quickly. Most certainly in the greenhouse they will. But as I say, I don't normally do it like this. What I normally do is put them straight into the ground like this in a row, just like I did the spinach, which is a similar looking seed. It's from the same family. That's obviously spinach, beet. So you know, other plants that are in the same family, things like chard, they're all the same family. So they all have these seeds that look like little pieces of cork. They all grow pretty much in the same way. Right, I've almost finished. So as soon as I've got all of these seeds in, all I'm going to do is put a very, very light covering of compost over the top, and then just give them a gentle water. Don't sort of wash the seeds away with a small watering can. And then I've just got to keep these moist now for the next couple of days, and then these will be germinating and away they go. So I've got a couple of seeds left there, which I'll just put on one side, just in case none of them come through, or you know, some of them don't come through. So all I've got to do now is very quickly just put a little covering of compost over. Obviously when you do this you can take your time a bit more than I am. That's all you really need to do. Again, just firm them down like that to make sure that the compost's in contact with the seed, like that. Obviously make sure that you label it up so you know what they are, and then they should be up in the next sort of week or 2, and then they'll be very quickly up to, as soon as they get to kind of 2 inches, an inch and a half, 2 inches high, or sort of 4 to 5 centimetres high, plant them out into the ground, and then they'll grow away quite merrily. So they're what you can be doing with beetroot. But what I will be doing is also planting some out into the garden as well. So you know, doubling my bets up. But that's some beetroot sown in the greenhouse. Okay, so it's time to do the peppers and the chilies. Now I was ideally going to put these in about a month ago, but with one thing and another I haven't got around to doing it yet. So basically I'm a little bit late with the peppers and the chilies this year. Really you need to give these as long a growing season as you possibly can do to get the best out of them. So ideally what you need to do is sow these in the house at the beginning of April and sort of start them off. But unfortunately here we are, sort of the first week in May. So I'm just trying to play catch up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is plant them in the greenhouse, put some glass over the top of them to start them off, and then you know, sort of work it from there. But anyway, I've got 6 different types of peppers that I'm going to be growing this year. 2 are hot and 4 are basically just sort of sweet peppers. The first one are these Figitello, very small sort of sweet chilies. Now these come from Johnson seed, so I'm going to be putting these into a small tray over here. Then I've got 3 different types of sweet peppers. The first one is California Wonder, then I've got Sweet Colour Rainbow, and then this last one here is called Colour Spectrum from Johnson's. These 2 are from Wilco's. So I'm going to be growing sort of a tray of those. I'm going to be putting into these little sort of modules, a couple of seeds in each one. Then hot pepper wise, I've got some cayenne pepper, which are the long sort of red, quite hot ones, and then I'm going to do sort of 4 rows of the jalapenos, which these go down really well. I use these a lot in cooking, in a lot of different dishes. So I'm going to be growing a whole sort of 4, sort of most of them are going to be these basically. Right, so let's start with the sort of the sweet chilies. I'm going to start with the California mix, which is this one, California Wonder. And I'm going to be doing 2 strips of each of these. Now, basically what you need to do is you can either grow these in a tray, like I'm doing with these, or put them into these little modules. If you put them into the little modules, it's easy to transplant them later. So I thought to save a bit of time later on, I'll put them straight in now. You don't typically get too many seeds. I'm not sure how many of these I've got. Let's just see how many there are. Now they're quite small seed. Let's just see how many we've got. Oh, there's quite a few. So I'm going to need 2, 4, 6, 8. So 16 seeds I'm going to be putting of these in. So the seeds, as you would expect, look like the seeds you see inside a pepper, obviously. So what I'm going to be doing is putting 2 seeds in each one. So actually I'll need 32 seeds, thinking about it. So, and all I'm going to do is very, very lightly cover these with compost. I've left a bit of space at the top of the cell so that I can water them. Now you don't need to over water these. What you do need to do is make sure that they're kept moist. Ideally you need the temperature to be reasonably high for germination on these, which is why I typically germinate them in the house and then bring them up to the allotment after once they've germinated. I just need a few more seed of those. Right. So as I say, what I'll do, I'll put 2 seeds in each one. If both germinate, then what I'll do is I'll obviously pull one of the 2 out, leaving me with just one plant, and then I'll pop these up as soon as they get to any kind of size. Right, so I just need 3 more seeds. Right, I don't know if you can see them on the camera. Basically, I've got 2 in each tray. So that's California. Before I get confused with what's what. Right, so I'll save the rest of them seeds for next year. The next one is the Spectrum, which is this multicoloured one. Now I did grow these last year. I did get sort of mixed results from these, to be honest with you, but I thought I'd try them again. Last year wasn't a brilliant year. It wasn't a bad year for peppers, but it wasn't a brilliant year last year. But I did, by this time I'd already grown the plants, to be honest with you, so they were quite big at this time of the year. Hopefully these will catch up. So again, what I'm going to do is put 2 seeds of each one in each of these little cells, like that. I'm not going to pat them down too much. I'm going to keep the compost reasonably loose. Now these are multicoloured ones, so I should get quite a rainbow of different colours out of these. And the last one that I'm going to be putting in is the variety just called Coloured Rainbow. Now they're sort of basically yellow, red and green. Now I don't typically like green peppers too much, to be honest with you. I prefer them to be, I don't know, I find the green ones don't taste as good. Right, so those are all those. Right, so as soon as I've done that, so I've just got 1 strip of the sort of more standard coloured ones. So I'll just put the rest of the seed back into the packet. Right, and save them for next year. Right, so when you're saving seed, all you need to do basically is sort of keep them at a reasonable temperature in the house, and they'll keep in there most certainly till next year, so I'll be able to use them again. Right, so we only need 16 of these. Right, that's the first one, second one. Right, 2 more seeds. Right, then all I need to do now, so I'll just quickly show you what the seeds look like. So as you can see, I've got 2 in each cell. So in the middle I've got Spectrum, and then at the end I've got the rainbow, like that. So all I need to do now is just get a little teeny bit of compost and just basically just sprinkle that over. You only need to really lightly cover the seed. You don't need much on them at all. Like that, and that's more than enough just to cover them. Right, so what I'll do now is water them with water. It's been in the watering can in the greenhouse all day, so that's been reasonably warm. And then I'll put a piece of glass over the top of this just to try and keep it as warm as possible, because the temperature's not that hot today. It's around it's about 14 degrees centigrade in here, about 45, 46 degrees, so that's not that hot. Now in this one I'll obviously put the cayenne and the jalapeno in exactly the same way as I've just done that. The only different way of doing it obviously is to put it into a small tray like this, so I'll put the small sweet peppers in here, and basically all you need to do is, if you plant them into a tray like this, all you need to do is, I don't need too many of these, like that, is just basically sprinkle them out on the surface like that. Try and get them as far apart as possible, so when you separate them and prick them out later on to pot them up, you know, you get the maximum amount of root with each one, like that. And then all you need to do again is just sprinkle a little teeny bit of compost over the top. Now when these plants are young, they're all going to look the same, so what I suggest you do is most certainly get your labels ready before you put them in. Just tap that down slightly. Put a label in so you don't get them confused, because they will look practically identical when they first come out, and it won't be till they start to fruit really you'll be able to tell the difference. So all I need to do now is just water them. I'll put a piece of glass over the top like I've shown you before. Basically all you need to do is, just to keep them warm, is just put a piece of glass over the top like that. Leave a little space to let air get in and out, so put either a pencil or a little stick or something at one end, just so there's airflow underneath, so you don't get any condensation. And then leave them in the greenhouse, and hopefully in the next week or two they should start to germinate. Then I can take the glass off and let them grow on. So that's peppers for you. But as I say, I am a bit late doing this year. Ideally I should have done this about a month to 6 weeks ago. So I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Little Garden.